Good evening, my friends. I was discussing, just because I did ask, is there anybody who has a question? And there was no reaction, which could be interpreted as everything is well understood and nothing is bothering, or maybe nothing is bothering us, or maybe because everything is clear. That everything is clear is just impossible. Because who can say that everything is clear in this world? Let me adjust my words. This world is known in the Hebraic, in the Hebrew term, it's called Olam. Ha'olam hazeh, ha'olam haba. Is this on? So it's called Olam. What is Olam? You have to understand that in Hebrew, as we have specified many times before, every Hebrew word, you must ask, why is it pronounced this way? You see, in all the languages of the nations, the languages are known as Heskemiot, which means it is a plain agreement. The world agrees that thank you is a reaction to something to show that you appreciate what was any kind of benefit that you got before. So therefore, you don't ask what is thank you. Can you explain to me what is the word thank you? Nobody can. In French, it's merci. Merci. What's merci? I mean, if you say it in English, it's merci. And that doesn't mean thank you. And yet in French it has been agreed upon all the generations that in French, merci means thank you. In Hebrew it means toda. Immediately you must ask a question, why do we call it toda? Why the expression of appreciation for something in return? Something good that was done to you, you said toda, you said thank you. Why is it called toda? Because in Hebrew, nothing is agreemental. In Hebrew, everything is rooted in a tremendous fact or philosophy. Unlike the other languages. Because the Hebrew is the language of God. It is the language of Adam Harishon, the first man. And therefore it is impossible that words were invented and then people agreed upon them. Like it happened with all the other languages. In fact, you should know, I proved to you last time that I know French. I know it quite well. But I know also that just about 300 and 400 years ago, French, not in its entirety, but a very big part of the language, of the French language is different. Go back 1,000 years ago, you will not be able to understand the French. It's amazing. So you see that there is an evolution. The English just the same. Everybody would agree if you learn Shakespeare, who lived around, how many years ago he lived, Shakespeare? Maybe 400 years ago, something like this. You know that his English, no matter how much they want to adapt it to the classical kind of English, to the beautiful language, nevertheless everybody knows it is the ancient kind of language. How much of the Shakespeare we use today? Not much. Because there is evolution about the languages. But when you talk about Hebrew, except for modern Hebrew, there is such a thing as modern Hebrew, but everything is rooted in the Tanakh, in the books of Moses, of the prophets, in the Bible. And the most beautiful Hebrew is the Hebrew that we find in the Bible. That's when you are known as someone who speaks beautifully the language. So you see that the Hebrew language is totally different than the other languages. And what is basically the difference is that all the languages are agreemental, which means they agree that that's the way it is. Even though you don't understand what it means, but We agreed that thank you would mean to show appreciation, right? But the word thank you itself, how does it relate to appreciation? Nobody knows. Neither mercy, I'm merci, or shukran in Arabic, or spasiba in Russia. Do you know what is spasiba? From where? Do you tell me what is the derivation of spasiba? Nobody will be able to explain the derivation of any word, except that it is an agreement that we understand. That's the way. That's known by the great philosophers as Hasafa HaHeskemit, the languages that are just an agreement. But when it comes to Hebrew, you have to understand what it means. Why do we call it, the hand is yad in Hebrew. Why is it called yad? Because there is a certain verse in the book of Echa, Lamentations in the Bible, where it says, Vayaddu evenbi. When you throw up a stone, when you throw a stone upward, it means in Hebrew leyadot. So now leyadot means to throw upward, heavenward. That's called leyadot. So now we understand why it's called yad, because it has the faculty of throwing something up. So now we understand, we could start to understand what is todah, which in Hebrew means thank you. It comes from the verb lehodot. And lehodot comes from the verb leyadot. And leyadot means to bring up. And lehodot means to thank and to elevate. So now we understand what is todah. Todah is a derivation of lehodot. The infinitive of todah is lehodot, to thank. Why? Because it has the nature of leyadot, to bring up. So now if I ask you what is todah, you would immediately able to understand that todah means you are elevated. Because you gave me a benefit, I see you now that you are superior, that you are great, that you are elevated. That's the meaning of todah. So now, we asked that if we have no questions, it could mean many things. It could mean that everything is clear. And nothing is clear, truly. Why? Because how do we call in Hebrew this world? Olam. Which in Hebrew, what is olam? Again, you have to ask, what is olam? If it was, let's say you say it in French, then olam means le monde. Everybody knows le monde is olam, the world. What's in English? In English, the world. Okay? But nobody is going to say, how do you know that the world is the world? Or that le monde is the world? How do you know? Nobody will tell you. Why? Because everybody agrees. What do you mean? Le monde is le monde. The biggest newspaper in French is Le Monde, the world. So it's very, very famous. It's like the New York Times. But in Hebrew, it's known as olam. And what's olam? It is derived from the word ne'lam. And what's ne'lam? It means disappeared, not clear. Our sages say in the Talmud, ha'olam hazeh domeh lelayla. This world is considered like the night. What is the relationship with the night? The night, everything is dark, so nothing is clear. That's exactly the nature of this world. Nothing makes sense, nothing is clear. But apparently everything is clear here. But the truth is that even to know that it's not clear, you have to be a searcher. You have to be a seeker. Then you know that nothing makes sense. Why, you mean to tell me that, why is it that somebody comes to this world and he lives for 100 years and then he dies, whereas another guy dies at the age of 17 or 18? Does it make sense? Doesn't make sense. Only we know that there is a reason, but do we see it? We don't know anything in this world. What is the reason behind this? What is the reason behind that? Why is it that these people suffer? These people do not suffer. Why is it like in the Talmud, there is such a question? And King David was the first one who asked this question. Madua derech reshaim tzalecha. He asks in the book of Psalms, why is it that the wicked people succeed? Does it make sense? On the contrary, we thought that by being a good person, you get success. Instead, in most cases, the wicked do succeed. We don't know. There's only one way to answer, to see something that is clear. If you believe that there is another world, then you know whatever has been missing in this world will be completed in the next world. And then you will be able to see the complete shape. Let me give you another example. Everybody is complaining about something that is missing. There's nobody that will tell you, unless if he is a tzaddik, if he is a very righteous man, then he will tell you everything is perfect. But when someone is sincere and he will ask him, is there anything wrong? He says, don't ask. I have this problem and I have this problem and I have this problem. Nothing wrong with that. I'm not saying that it is wrong to complain that there are problems, because this is a world of problems. You have people, some people don't want to get married at all, and yet all the time they have all the opportunities and they don't take it. Some other people, they would like to get married and nothing is wrong with them and they are beautiful and they are handsome and everything, and they still don't find their shidduch. Does it make sense? It doesn't make sense. Why is this way? Again, it relates to the word olam. And olam again means ne'lam. Ne'lam means disappears. We cannot know everything in this world. We cannot know also, many times people are being punished for something that they have committed, when other people who have committed the same thing or worse are not being punished. What's going on? And yet we read in the Bible that the God is a God of justice. Like it says in the book of Devarim, El emunah ve'en avel tzaddik ve'yasharhu. God is a God of tremendous justice. He is straight and right. But everybody will come up and say, where is this justice? I don't see any justice. Was there any justice given to the Jewish people? For 2,000 years, the Jewish people have been persecuted non-stop. And even today, when everybody reads in the Bible that the land of Israel is our land, and yet they keep fighting us, killing us, and so forth. Does it make sense? Why is it that people would hate? That's another question. Why people hate the Jewish people? Why? Does it make any sense? Why would you hate the Jew? As I always say, all the Jew does. Are you afraid when you go to a Jewish neighborhood? Are you afraid to be robbed or to be murdered? Like in you go to the Bronx, you go to Harlem, you know you are in danger. But when you go to a Jewish neighborhood, are you afraid? No. You are not afraid. You know, among Jews you are safe. Well, I think that should be enough to respect this nation, if not to love it. I think it's very logical to love the Jew. Listen, the Jew was the cause for the biggest religions in this world. Christianity owes us its religion. Islam owes us its religion. I told you that Muhammad, I hope you don't say Alav Shalom, but Muhammad, he wanted Judaism. The only reason why he reverted to Islam is because the Jews didn't want to accept him as a prophet. They refused. What do you mean you are a prophet? We know our prophets. You become a prophet? And they refused. He was so angry that he lashed at them And this has been perpetrated in all the generations. And now anything that is Jewish, they say, no, it's not Jewish. The land of Israel, it's not your land, it's our land. That's what the Arabs say. But Ribono Shel Olam, it's only one small place, one small spot. And after the Holocaust, the Jews do not have any right in a small place in which the Bible... I mean, there is no nation that has a document that testifies to the fact that this country or that country belongs to them. There's only one nation in the world that has the best document in the world that testifies to the fact that this country is theirs. And that's the Bible. Everybody reads it. That Hashem gave us the land of Israel. He promised to Abraham, Yitzchak and Yaakov, and He gave it to us. What do you want? You know, I'll share with you a tremendous information. Again, I'm not going to use this again. And it's okay. You know, there is one of the most classical books of Judaism is the Zohar. The Holy Zohar is the Torah of Kabbalah. I'm sure you heard about Kabbalah. Nobody really knows what is Kabbalah, but the truth that everybody talks about Kabbalah. Apparently it's very interesting. People are very interested in Kabbalah. Why? Because it's mysterious. Anything that is mysterious appeals to people. But the truth is that Kabbalah is a different type of learning. It's something else. It's a different condition of study. Anyway, I will not go into this. It says in the book of the Zohar, the book of the Zohar that's where all the philosophy of Kabbalah came out. It has been written by Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai close to 2,000 years ago. He was in a cave with his son Elazar. He spent in that cave 13 years, the first 12 years straight. When he came out, they were already like angels, as the Talmud tells us. When they saw people working, they could not understand that people are working instead of spending their time learning Torah. So their eyes projected rays that were deadly, and people fell dead. And a heavenly voice came out and said, Shimon ben Yochai, what are you doing, killing my people? Go back to your cave until you get used to live again with human beings. So imagine 12 years in the cave made them immersed totally in a special study that is called the Kabbalah. That's where the Zohar has been written. And they became practically angels. They could not understand that people would ruin their life working, so to speak. They went back to the cave for another 12 months. And then when they came out, so it was Erev Shabbat, Friday, and the first thing they saw was a Jew running. They said to him, hey, hold it. I have no time. Shabbat is coming. What do you mean Shabbat? Oh, you mean, yeah, Shabbat, please. So Rab Shimon turned to his son, he says, you see, this is the Jewish people. How great they are in order to sanctify the Shabbat. Look what an emergency it is for them to sanctify the Shabbat. Therefore, we should learn how to live with them, even though they work and even though they have many things that are missing and that are wrong and everything. We have to learn how to live with people. People are beautiful, Jews are beautiful, and everything. So what is it that I want to convey to you? In the book of the Zohar, we found many prophecies. And you know, today we live in an age where it is so interesting. We are so lucky to live in this generation. Do you know, my friends, that we are much more lucky than King David? I'll prove it to you on the spot. King David lived approximately 2,800 years ago. King David, our beloved King David. And yet we are more lucky than him, because he also went to the Torah on Shabbat, like us. The only difference is that he read about things that he could not understand. Such as what? The Torah tells us that because of your sins and iniquities, I shall scatter you all over the nations. You will be expelled from the land of Israel. King David didn't know anything about going outside in Israel. In his time, Jews were in the land of Israel. after they got it from Moshe and Yoshua bin Nun. There was no idea, there was no concept of being in the exile. To being in exile for David was the most remote possibility. It's like today, if we are learning when we will be living in the planet Mars, when we don't even know what is the planet Mars. That's exactly when King David got up to the Torah, when he read twice a year, he read that the Jews are going to be dispersed all over the world, and he doesn't know it. It doesn't say anywhere that he came up with a question saying, hey, what kind of Torah is this? It's not true. Did he ever say it's not true? He is the one who teaches us the Torah. How can he teach me the Torah when I see I am so much more lucky than him that I see today that the Torah has been correct when he had no way to see that the Torah is correct? Verstehst? You understand what I am saying? You know, King David goes up to the Torah, he reads a portion of the Torah saying that we are going to be dispersed all over the nations, and he doesn't know, he doesn't have any idea about it. And yet he reads with full emunah, and he says, the bracha barechu et Hashem amborach, baruch ata Hashem, asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim, without any complaints. Kol hakavod. If we were to read this portion today, and there was no history of exile among the Jewish people, what would we say? This Torah is a sheer falsity. Am I correct or not? Right? So, are we lucky or not to live in this generation when we see everything is behind us? Everything that the Torah says came true. You know that even the Holocaust is written in the Torah? But that's another subject. Even the Holocaust is written. I mean, not only the Holocaust in Germany, every kind of Holocaust. You could see it in the Torah, if you know how to read the codes of the Torah. Today, all this is being discovered à la pelle, by the buckets. So, one of the branches of the Torah, as everybody knows that we have a second Torah. The second Torah is the Oral Torah, which is the Talmud, this, and all these books. That's the Torah that was given orally. Because you understand that Moshe, when he went to the mountain of Sinai, he did not go to bring only 10 commandments in a tablet. He brought with him, Habibi, he was there. He spent 40 days and 40 nights. When the teacher is God himself. You know when the teacher is God himself, how much time it will take you to know everything? 1 second. And yet it took him 40 days and 40 nights. What did he do 40 days and 40 nights? When the teacher himself is God who does not even sleep. You must understand that he learned that, as our sages told us, he learned there all the secrets of the universe. He learned there the Torah as a source of all the secrets of the universe in every age till the end of time. He saw your name in the Torah. He learned your identity, the day of your birth, the day of your death. He learned everything. And of course the history of the Jewish people everywhere is one after the other. You know that even Jacob, before Moses, he knew the history of the Jewish people. Would you like me to tell you how? Everybody knows that we read in Parashat Vaychi, that we read just 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, that he gathered his children and he said to them, remind me to go back to the Zohar, please. But Yaakov Avinu, our father Jacob, when he called upon his children, gather my children, I want to reveal to you et asher yihye etchem be'acharit hayamim. Let me reveal to you what is going to be throughout the generations for the Jewish people. And then our sages said something happened. ביקש לגלות את הקץ ונעלם ממנו. He started to talk and he started to reveal to them things and things and things which I am going to tell you. And then suddenly it has disappeared from his mind. It was blocked. our sages explained, here is what happened to Jacob, Yaakov Avinu. Here is what happened to him. He was about to die. At that time he had the Spirit of God in him. He saw everything. He saw the future of the Jewish people. And he called them because he wanted to reveal to them the end of time. So in order to reveal to them the end of time, he had to tell them all the history of all times. So he started. Which means he told them, my children, you have to know that your descendants are going to be enslaved in Egypt, in Mitzrayim. Yes. But, he said, that was a promise to Abraham, our father, that they will be freed. And they will come out from Egypt with tremendous miracles. And they will be extremely rich. They will come out with great riches. Very nice. And then they will go to the land of Israel. Oh, so great. And then Yehoshua bin Nun, Joshua, his famous disciple of Moshe, will lead the Jewish people in a tremendous one victory after another. And he will conquer all the land of Israel. And there will be such a wonderful time when the Jewish people will finally be established in their land, the land of their forefathers. Everyone will sit under his fig tree and his grapes and so forth. It's an expression to show that they will be happy. And then he told them, and then there is going to be Shaul HaMelech, King Shaul. There will be a time when the people of Israel will ask for a king, which was a sign already of certain degradation of the nation of Israel. Because our only king is supposed to be God. He proclaimed to us that he is our king and we are his princes. But God said, if that's what they want, give them a king. So there was a prophet, and the first prophet of Israel was Shemuel. And Shemuel anointed the first king of Israel, Shaul. And Shaul will be in the beginning a very righteous king. And little by little it will go to his head. And he will become sickly. And then who will take over? Will come after him David. Not his son Yehonatan, but David. And David will be the hero of Israel. And David will be glorified and beloved by all of them, by all the Jewish people. And David will bring the Jewish people to such glorious time. And then Jacob says to his children, and then for the first time, they will think about building a beautiful palace, a sanctuary for God, that we call Bet Mikdash, the first. And Jacob keeps on going in his spirit, revealing to his children all the history of the Jewish people. And he goes on telling them the greatness of King Solomon, the son of David. What an age where all the nations, where all the kings were practically jealous from the King Solomon and his wisdom. And he spoke about Bathsheba, and he spoke about Malkat Sheva, and then he spoke about the children of Shlomo. Already not anymore Shlomo. That's Rechavam. The difference is just painful between Solomon and his son Rechavam. And Rechavam already started to bring down the Jewish people in their level. And very good, but everything seems to be still okay. And then there was a succession of kings. You had the king of Achab, who brought to the Jewish people a lot of idolatry. And then after the king Achab, there were other kings. Some of them were good. Chizkiah was righteous, Chizkiah the king. There was another king, Yoshia, who was a perfect king. But there were other kings who were very bad, such as Achab, such as Achaz, such as all the names that are brought in the Bible. Little by little we are going down and down. And Yaakov is already worried. He sees the future. While the future began with a tremendous joy, little by little sadness is taking taking shape in the heart of Yaakov. And Yaakov says, oh my God, I see that the king of Israel, Menashe, is going to cause Yerovam first. Yerovam is going to cause the Jewish people to completely divide. And the first division, the split of the Jewish people between Yehuda and Binyamin, and then the tribes of Ephraim and all the other tribes. Where the king Yerovam was the king of Israel, the south of Israel, and the king Rechavam was the king of Judea. That was the first split. Very sad news. And then this led to other kings and other kings, and terrible things started to happen, and Yaakov started to be sad. And then he revealed to them the destruction of the first temple. In the year 586 before the Common Era, the first temple was destroyed by Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon. That was the first tragedy, terrible tragedy to the Jewish people since the time of Moses. But Jacob still contained himself, and he saw further in his vision that there are happier days. There are going to be happier days, because Jews are going to be in Babylon, but they will be very prosperous. There will be ages of tremendous wisdom by the sages. There will be the sages of the Mishnah, the sages of the Gemara, and so forth, up to the second temple when Christianity begins. And that's when Yaakov, our father, became very startled, but again he regained himself. He said, wait, there is better times coming. There will be a Shas, a Talmud. Wonderful. That's enough to continue. And he goes on up to perhaps the time of 1,000 years ago, when he told them about the Rambam. Such great luminary will come to the Jewish people. And then he goes on, he will tell them about Rashi, the great luminary of Israel, of the Jewish people, the great commentator on the Torah. And then the great sages, the Rashba, the Ritba, the Rif, Rabbi Yitzchak El-Fassi, all the great names. Until he came to 1492, the expulsion of the Jews from Spain. A terrible thing for Yaakov, for our father Jacob to contain. He was already starting to feel bad. But he goes on. He saw some other generations that are beautiful, up to the Vilna Gaon 250 years ago, and the Bet Yosef 450 years ago, and the Arya Kadosh, great times, until he arrived to our age. And our age with the Holocaust. When he saw that 6 million Jews passed away, he became so sad that he lost his vision. Because our sages said in the Talmud in Masechet Shabbat on page 31, it says there, En hashchina shora ela mitoch simcha. The divine presence dwells in you only if you are in a state of happiness. When Jacob was full of happiness, when he started to reveal the great revelations to his children. But when he came finally to the last generation, before the Mashiach, whatever, Acharit Hayamim, the last days of the world, these are these days. And he said to them, there is going to be a Holocaust. 6 million Jews are going to be murdered in such a horrible, atrocious way. He became so sad that he lost the vision. And that's what our sages meant by saying, Bikesh legalot et haketz ve'ne'alam mimenu. He wanted to reveal exactly the end of time when the Mashiach comes, and this was completely blocked off from him. Why? Because of the sadness that he felt. So you see that our forefathers knew a lot about the future. So you might say, well, that's what you say, Rabbi Ben Chai. Oh no, are we going to check what you say? Malkiel, are you going to check what I am saying? If you don't believe me, then I am going to tell you something else. And now I can prove it. Because how can I prove the words of Yaakov? I wasn't there. But our sages do tell us these things that I'm telling you. But then, if you want to go to the Zohar HaKadosh, Today we have, Baruch Hashem, we have been blessed with a generation that everything is possible. Finally, we have the Zohar printed. That's 26 volumes or 24 volumes of the Torah of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. And that's where that is the source of Kabbalah. And many prophecies were revealed in the book of the Zohar. There is only one problem with the book of the Zohar. Who is going to understand it? Because it was written in codes. Even the stories of the Zohar are a code, are hiding a secret. So we had the great Kabbalists, the Vilna Gaon, for example, was the first one. I mean, not the first one. The Ari HaKadosh, 400 years ago, revealed the secrets of the Zohar, practically. But again, you need to be on a high level to understand the words of the Ari HaKadosh. 250 years ago, there was a great man in Vilna, in Russia, then. Lithuania. And he was there, and his name was Rabbi Eliyahu Zalman. Not a Sephardic. We had many geniuses among the Sephardim. We had the Or HaChaim HaKadosh, Rabbi Chaim ben Attar from Morocco 400 years ago, a luminary that even the Vilna Gaon prostrates before him, bows before him. We had many, many great ones. But the Vilna Gaon was very special. God gave him such a mind that we say that it's a mind of a malach, of an angel. Because with one look, he finishes, in 1 minute he finishes the whole book. In 1 second. It was not only a photographic memory, it was something just beyond description. And he left us with a bundle of works of his, in which we see the greatness of the Vilna Gaon. One of the things that he said was to calculate when the Mashiach will come. Would you believe that he arrived to the number 1948? He says in 1948 will be the Geula, the redemption will begin. And in 1948 was the state of Israel was established. And yet the Vilna Gaon was 250 years before that. And yet, he said it openly. There were other rabbis who said more or less what the Malbim, and other rabbis who predicted certain things, but it's not clear. But the words of the Vilna Gaon were very clear, unbelievable. 1948. So let's assume that it is a true prophecy. That 1948 begins a revival, a renaissance of the Jewish people. Very good. Now we have something beautiful. We have everything today. Today we have the works of the Vilna Gaon. We have the works of the Bet Yosef, Rabbi Yosef Karo, Maran, the Shulchan Aruch with all the Jewish code. We have the Talmud of Babylon. We have the Talmud of Yerushalayim, Talmud Yerushalmi. We have the Midrashim, the Midrash Rabbah, Midrash Tanchuma, the great stories and the philosophies of the sages that lived 2,000 years ago, 1,700 years ago, 1,800 years ago, and so forth. Midrash Tanchuma, we have the Mechilta of Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai. We have so many ancient books. With all the books that we have today, we are replete with information. Today, we can consider ourselves as giants, right? But the truth is that we are just little, very little. Why? Because compared to the generations before, we are very small. So how come we think that we are so big? So imagine a dwarf standing on the shoulders of a giant man. You see here a very big man. But on his shoulder there is a small man. And he's standing there, and that's why from far you think that the small man is bigger than the big man. When he's on his shoulder, so his head supersedes the head of the giant. You understand what I'm saying, right? That's what we are today. We are on the shoulders of great giants of before. Still, the information is all here today. And one of the biggest informations that we have is the book of the Zohar. Today, the lucky ones among us who can go into all the books and understand more or less everything, they will discover a plethora of informations that will practically make you go wild. Do you know? One of the the ugliest names of these days is Ben Laden. Right? Ben Laden. He's a cockroach that got up from where? I don't know from where he came. And he's practically sowing such destruction all over the world. And they don't seem to be able even to catch him. Unbelievable. Where did he come from, this guy?
No way.
He's hiding in some caves, in some mountains, and even the great America cannot find him.
He's on Muhammad's shoulder. Little guy.
I tell you the truth, it's amazing. Not if you go into the Zohar HaKadosh. The Zohar HaKadosh was written 2,000 years ago. And 2,000 years ago, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai writes that there will be a man by the name Ben Laden. You don't believe me? Go to Bereshit, Zohar, Bereshit, Perek Vav, Daf Vav, page 6. And Bereshit. And you will see that there is going to be, at the end of times, there will be a man, a person. I mean not a man, he calls him a dog. Who was a dog in heaven, and he came down as a dog in order, and he took the shape of a human being, and his name is Ben Laden, and he is going to cause tumult all over the world. He will cause wars, and that is at the end of times, Acharit Hayamim. Now, go further to Parashat Vayera, in the Zohar HaKadosh, you will find there an extraordinary information. There will be two big buildings in the land of Edom, which today we relate the word Edom to America. And those are the biggest, the tallest buildings in the world. And they will be brought down completely. And that will be the sign of the beginning of tremendous wars that will end only in the coming of the Mashiach. Two buildings. Wow. You know, I'll tell you something. I think I already told you this, by the way. That 1 week before, how do you call that? The World Center. World Trade Center. Those two great edifices of tremendous architecture. They were destroyed, I mean, in such a way that nobody still understands what happened. How come they were brought down in such a massive way? 1 week before, one of the great rabbis in Israel, a Hasidic rabbi, an Admor, he came to visit the Square Rebbe in Square, New Square. And he came with some people, some of his disciples in the car, and they were coming towards the evening. He didn't want to lose the time of Mincha, the prayer of the afternoon. So he said, please, can you stop right here? I want to daven, I want to pray Mincha here. They prayed Mincha with Minyan in front of everybody passing in Manhattan. Where? Right there, near the World Center. After he finished the davening, the prayer, he said, say bye-bye to those buildings because you are not going to see them no more. I mean, it's unbelievable. We don't even know the name of him. There are many great people like Rabbi Kaduri who said many things, Alav Shalom, the great famous Sephardic Kabbalist who passed away just 2 years ago. Baba Saleh, if I tell you what Baba Saleh we will stay here till tomorrow about the predictions that he made. Such unbelievable revelations. I don't know, some of them may be not so true, maybe some, I don't know. All I know is, listen to what I am going to bring you now. We were talking about the Zohar HaKadosh, and the Zohar HaKadosh is going after one prediction after another. And all of them, we are here today as witnesses to everything that was said there that it's happening. I mean, even the worst example I told you, Ben Laden. Who cares about Caleb like this?
What about Mr. Healing?
Okay. He could say, I didn't say, you see, our sages said, she's asking a wonderful question. There is a guy by the name Nostradamus. He lived approximately 400 years ago. Where, in France was it? I think in France. And he is famous for his predictions. But you know what? Number one, I must tell you there is nothing against it, because our sages said, Chokhmah b'goyim ta'amin. I mean, you shouldn't believe that among the goyim there are no prophets. There are prophets. Who is the biggest prophet of the goyim? Bil'am. And God says that I am going to give to the nations a prophet greater than Moses, so that they will not complain later telling me that the reason they were bad is because I didn't give them a good prophet. I gave them Bil'am, and Bil'am, some of them, the central prophecies that we have, Matovu Ohalecha Yaakov Mishkenotecha Israel, come from Bil'am. Now, she said that, what about Nostradamus? If you know about Nostradamus, he did say many, many predictions that relate to this age. But I tell you the truth about Nostradamus. I never understood a word that is. I tell you the truth. I never could understand anything he says. Okay, maybe I trust that that he knew what he was saying, but I don't understand what he says.
He wasn't Jewish?
No, not at all. But the thing is that everybody says, they say that he predicted. Okay, very good, I believe, but I don't understand what he says. Nothing that he says is clear. It's all speculations. You could explain it any way you want. But what I am going to tell you is vivid, like yourself. You go to the Zohar HaKadosh in Parashat Va'era and see what it says there. I remember I said those words that I am saying to you on the radio in Israel. I remember. And I did mention when I used to talk on the radio here in WEVD, I used to broadcast the Hebrew lecture every week. Nobody here remembers Ayana Ailon? No? I guess it's all over, right? There used to be a Hebrew program in WEVD for 5 years. Every Thursday night I gave half-hour talk to the Israelis at large. And I remember I did mention this. I had many, many phone calls over that. And in this case we can prove it to you. And it says there. Here is what it says. The Zohar HaKadosh says there is a nation. And this nation has a prince in heaven. Every nation has a prince. This is what we call Sarosh el-Esav, the prince of Esav, and the prince of Ishmael. Which means God created in His world those who take charge of the nations. Which means there is someone, there is a lawyer that every nation has. One day, the prince of Ishmael came to God. And he said to him, God, it's not fair. You should also give something to the nation of Ishmael. I know they are donkeys and I know they are... but you have to give them something, come on. They do Brit Milah. They do circumcision. So God says, all right, I'll give them something. I'm going to give them the merit to be in the land of Israel. Now remember, these words were written 2,000 years ago. Everybody testifies to that. There is no controversiality over this. He says that God said to the prince of Ishmael, because of what you said, even though the circumcision that they do is incorrect, nevertheless I will give them a merit because of that. What is the merit that I give them? They will be able to stay in the land of Israel all the time that my children are not there. God has His calculation. He knew that we are going to get out from the land of Israel 2,000 years ago. We will be expelled and scattered all over the nations. And we will not be in the land of Israel for approximately 2,000 years. All this time, God said, I give permission to the people of Ishmael to be there. When my people Israel will come back, the Zohar says, when my people Israel will come back to my land, then you should know this is the end of that time that I have extended to the people of Ishmael, the Muslims, the Arabs. That's it. They don't have any more merit to stay there. Not only that, the Zohar HaKadosh says, all this time that the Muslims or the people of Ishmael will be in the land of Israel all these 2,000 years, the land will not yield at all, will remain barren. If you remember 50, 60 years ago, if you went to take a stroll among the Arabs after the 6 Days War, you could not avoid asking a question: what happened to these people? These people were here all so many hundreds of years, and they did not build anything. Where are the gardens? Where are the farms? Where are the buildings? Nothing. Hashem Yishmor. It's unbelievable. It's like whatever they touch in the land of Israel is dead. I mean, remember, just a while ago, we gave them a paradise in their hands. Gush Katif, after we have extracted so painfully our brethren from there. What did they do with it? Nothing. You go there, it's all destroyed. It's nothing. They didn't do anything. I remember in 1967, and before that, when we came to the land to Israel, we went to see. I mean, everything that is Arab was barren, nothing green except olive trees. And even the olive trees are powdered with dust, even today. Nothing else. And that doesn't mean they don't have fruits. They have delicious fruits. I mean, the land does yield fruits. But nothing that you could see in your eyes, nothing spectacular, nothing beautiful. And the Zohar HaKadosh says, all these years the land will not give them anything. But when my children will come back, as soon as they come back, the land will give them with tremendous abundance. That's what the Zohar HaKadosh said 2,000 years ago. Remember Israel 50 years ago? Is it the same Israel today? Wherever you go, you raise your eyes with admiration. Miami Beach everywhere. You go to Ashdod, it's Miami Beach. You go to Holon, tell me. Unbelievable. You see the beautiful fruits, you see the markets, you see the buildings. In 50 years, a whole America was built there. And you tell me the Zohar HaKadosh doesn't know what it's talking about? When the Zohar specifically tells us what will be in 2,000 years ago. Tell me the land of Israel does not belong to us? How can anybody think that this land does not belong to us? When this land is a living land, it knows its occupants. It knows its inhabitants. You think the land of Israel, by the way, our sages say that the land of Israel is alive. That's the only land that's alive. Which means it can vomit people out. It did it to us. The Torah says, "Vayakeh v'takeh haaretz et yoshveha," and the land vomited its us. People who do not practice the laws of the Torah and do not observe the Torah, usually they are vomited. Unless if you teach Torah outside Eretz Israel, you are not allowed to leave the land of Israel. If you did go out, it means perhaps the land doesn't want you. Do you know that? Did anybody think for 1 minute that the reason he's out of Israel is because the land refuses him? And that's why everybody has to speculate about himself. What can I tell you? Except if you go to teach Torah. That's the only comfort that I have. So you see, it's unbelievable. When the Zohar HaKadosh is telling me that as soon as my children will come back, the land will give them in such profusion, in such abundance, that is beyond description. When I see that 2,000 years that the Arabs were there, they didn't do anything. Nothing. And look what they do. And they still pretend to say that the land is theirs. It's not the land. It's not the land they are after. My friends, if you think that the Arabs are after the land of Israel, then you don't know what's going on. They are after the blood of the Jew. That's all that interests them. The jealousy is consuming them. It's killing them, mamash. But we have to know that Hashem is with us. And Hashem, even though we do not deserve it so much, believe me. Even though, because unfortunately, even King David wrote in his book of Tehillim that the only reason why God gave us the land of Israel is so we will observe the mitzvot in it. Ba'avur tishmeru mitzvotai v'torotai, hallelujah. That's what it says in the... Why did I give you amal le'umim? I gave you the labor of the nations in your hands so that you will observe the Torah and mitzvot. So in Israel, those who do not, unfortunately, still the majority, does not keep the Torah and the mitzvot. So what do they expect? There is danger. But the land is ours. The lands cannot be anyone else's. It is ours. Because this land is a land that is full of life. And it recognizes its rightful inhabitants. When it had to be occupied by the others, by the foreigners, it did not yield anything. But as soon as it felt that its inhabitants are coming back, it gave. It gave. And all this is written in the Zohar HaKadosh. How can you expect me not to believe? When I read in the Zohar and I see things that we see today, I say, Ashrenu matov chelkenu manaim goradenu. How happy we are that we live in this generation. I'm not saying that this generation is perfect. It's the worst of all the generations. It's the most vicious of all the generations. But at the same time, it's the most meritorious, because this is the generation in which we are going to be able to see things even more than what we already saw. We saw tremendous things. And even Jews who don't keep the Torah, they know the truth. Unfortunately. Remember in the 6 Days War, even General Dayan, Moshe Dayan, after the 6 Days War, he immediately went to the Kotel HaMa'aravi, to the Wall of Lamentation, and he wrote a little piece of paper and he put it inside the stones. And he wrote that. When they checked what he wrote, he quoted the verse from the book of Tehillim. Ze hayom asa Hashem, nagila v'nismecha bo, me'et Hashem hayta zoti niflat be'enenu. This is only from God that is marvelous for us. That's what he wrote. So you see, he was not an observant Jew. And yet, I tell you the truth, I don't understand the people who are not observant. They are fighting themselves. Mamash. I don't understand them. It's so logical to be religious. It's so logical to be an observant Jew. It's so illogical not to be observant. Because if you are not an observant and you are a Jew, then you are living the biggest contradiction of your life. As a Jew, what do you mean? You are a Jew. What does it mean? What does it mean to be a Jew? The first question that one should... You tell me that you have no questions. I asked you in the beginning, do you have any questions? No questions. But the first questions that one should ask is, I am a Jew. What does it mean? By the way, again, in Hebrew, the word Jew means Yehudi. So I taught you something tonight, that every word in Hebrew you should say, what is this? What's Yehudi? Yehudi comes from the verb lehodot, again, to thank. We spoke about thanking. Yehudi, lehodot. Modeh. You know how we start our services of God every morning? By the word modeh ani. The first word in our observance is modeh. I'm thankful to you, Hashem. You know the biggest thanks that we owe is by being Jews? When you get up in the morning and you find out, I am a Jew, you should give a nice dance before you go to work. Because you have no idea how lucky we are that we are Jews. Because the world is going crazy with jealousy about this. Because the world knows more than what we know, the meaning of being a Jew. Why do you think they hate us? Why? What have we done? We asked you a question before. What is wrong that they found in the Jews? You cannot go to a Jewish neighborhood and be scared. So, it is only logical and most natural to love the Jew. The Jews should be beloved everywhere. You know? Michael, I'm telling you, Jews should be beloved everywhere. Wherever you go to China, you know what should be? The Chinese should say, oh my God, this is a Jew. Let's bow. Of course, I sound presumptuous. I sound... That's not that. The point is that the nations, they know that. They know. They say it. I told you this a million times. But you see, the fact that they know they are not Jews does cause them all this hatred and all this resentment that they have towards us. But at least as far as we are concerned, when we are already Jews, Ribbono Shel Olam, aren't we asking ourselves what is the meaning of being a Jew? The meaning of being a Jew, number one, Let's see what is Yehudi. Yehudi means to thank. That's why we have to pray. We pray, that's how we thank God for everything that He gives us. The fact that we get up in the morning. You have to say thank you. Who says that you will wake up? Who says that we will wake up tomorrow? I mean, you go to sleep. Throughout the whole night you don't feel anything, right? You know what is sleep? Sleep is a mystery. Did you ever ask yourself what is sleep? You know what happens to us when we are asleep? We are dead.
Yeah.
There's only one thing that takes over then in the body. The nefesh. It's not anymore the neshama. The Zohar HaKadosh tells us that the neshama, that which gives us life and zest and energy and everything in our emotions and everything, goes away. You know, at that time, there is a certain time. Let me tell you something. In the book of Shulchan Aruch, it says that King David never slept more than half hour. The commentators explain he did not sleep in the day more than, even if he wanted to sleep in the day, he didn't sleep more than half hour. Why? What's wrong with more than 1 hour? What did you say? I know, but the Gemara says in Masechet Berachot that King David did not sleep more than half hour. He slept like a horse. A horse does not sleep. He has only about 60 half hour that he keeps on waking up every minute. That's how the horse sleeps. That was the sleep of King David. Why is that? Our sages said because he didn't want to taste the taste of death. So why half hour? Let's say not at all. But that some explain that he slept every now and then half hour. Because it's difficult for us to understand. How can he live without sleep? Only half hour, it's impossible. So you must explain that he did, let's say, during 24 hours, he had several times half hour. But every half hour he would get up and he would be busy doing things. Why half hour? Because the first half hour we are still alive. Even though some people, they start snoring immediately. I know that. As soon as you go to sleep, and you tell her, hey, you already snore. So what did I do? I'm not asleep. I didn't say anything. I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying that when somebody snores, it's not the full proof that he is completely asleep. He's still trying to sleep. That's all. There's a certain mechanism in the nose relating to the throat that causes the person to do the snoring that he himself cannot hear when others hear. It's one of the miracles of God. It's amazing. Some other time we'll talk about the miracles of the body. That's unbelievable. You could see, as Eov said, if you want to see God, all you have to do is check your body. From your own body you will see God. It's very simple. Your joints, you will see God. If you have seichel, you would know that there is God only by knowing how your eyes function. Just by knowing the mechanism of the eye is enough to make you believe that there is a God. No question about that. So we wake up in the morning after a long night's sleep. Some people sleep 5 hours, some people sleep 6, some people 7, some people 12 hours, some people sleep 16 hours. I know young people who sleep 16 hours. I cannot believe it. No, the friend of my daughter, she said to me, no, I sleep throughout the day and then I sleep throughout the night, which means day and night I sleep. There's no end. People have to be very careful not to sleep too much, by the way. And by the way, let me give you another information. It's good to know that it's not good to sleep during the day. If you have to, you can. Let's say if you want to study, for example, I don't sleep more than 3 hours a night, but most of the time I have to sleep 1 hour in the afternoon. Why? Because for the purpose, so I can stay late. I sleep 3-4 hours every night. If I sleep 5 hours, I'm very happy. I'm very, very happy. Believe me. There's so much to do in life. Napoleon, the king, the emperor of France, he didn't want to sleep. When they said to him, go to sleep, he said, I am a king. How do you want? If I go to sleep, I'll be like everyone else. But if I am awake, then I am a king. So the point is this. So I was telling you about the mystery of sleep without telling you anything about it, but something. The Shulchan Aruch, in the very beginning of the Shulchan Aruch, the Jewish code of laws. So Maran, Rabbi Yosef Karo says that King David slept no more than half hour. Why is that? כדי שלא יטעום טעם מיתה, so that we will not taste the taste of death. Because half hour, the first half hour you are trying to sleep, and even when you are asleep, you are not very deep asleep. As long as you are not very, very deeply asleep, you are not dead. Again, as long as you are not deeply asleep, you are not dead. But as soon as you are asleep in a way that you don't hear anything, we don't hear anything. I mean, of course, there's no. But normally, when you are very heavily asleep, you don't. That's the time when the neshama left the body. Yeah. So, what do you mean the neshama left the body? Then how do we live? I mean, we do breathe. We breathe with another force of energy. It's called the nefesh. The nefesh is a physical, is half physical, half spiritual entity that is in our body that takes over while the neshama is out. And this neshama, where does it go? Our sages said in the Zohar Kadosh that it goes to heaven to participate in a nice party that is a celebration that God gives every night. Every night God opens the celebration at midnight, and all the neshamot of the tzaddikim come and they dance together. Now, whether we understand what it means or not, I'm not saying that we understand what I'm saying. This is Kabbalah. But the neshama goes there, and at least our sages said that it goes also to give the account for whatever it did. Which means every day what we do is presented in a special report by the neshama there. In the morning when you wake up, you should know that means the neshama came back. If the neshama came back, it means we were dead and now we are alive. Who says that it should be this way? Maybe once it goes out, I don't want to go back to that body, and then you'll stay stuck. But we wake up every day. That's a kindness that God gives us, and we have to say thank you. And that's the reason why as soon as we open our eyes, we wash our hands, we say Modeh ani lefanecha melech hay vekayam she'echzarta bi nishmati bechemla rabba emunatecha. So what it says, I thank you, O Lord, for giving back my soul into me. Rabba emunatecha, how great is my belief in you. Because all it takes is a little bit of logic to understand that all this don't tell me it's by accident. Just by accident a beautiful body is made up. By accident it performs in such a noble way. By accident we think the mind is brewing all kinds of plans and thoughts and concepts. And what about the speech? Where does it come from? You think it's natural that when we are born, all we can do is cry, maximum then later to laugh? Did I tell you about the baby when it is born? You know, if anybody has a baby, when it is born, immediately after it is born, watch him the first month. Watch. Is he smiling?
Yes.
Well, he is smiling. But when is he smiling?
Sleep.
Only when it is asleep. Did you try to make him smile to you when he is awake? You will not succeed. But when he is asleep, he smiles. Even sometimes he laughs. We understand that when somebody smiles, he had to see something. What do we smile about? When we see people, we smile, we laugh, right? I see you, I would smile. But the baby, what does he see? The first month he doesn't see anything. In fact, some of them do not see for 2 months. So with whom, about what does he smile? Does he have any experience in life? Did he experience anything to smile about? What is he smiling about? About darkness? What is he smiling about? You must understand, and that's what brought me to say all this, to bring you to the beginning of the lecture. You see, he smiles with those with whom he lived before. He comes from somewhere. And he comes directly from heaven. In heaven he was there with his friends, enjoying himself a tremendous amount of happiness. Remember I told you sometime before, did you ever see a baby born laughing? How come no one is born? How come? All the time when they are born they have to cry. Why is it that they have to cry? My dear friends, all it takes is ask questions. You have to ask questions about everything. Every natural thing you must ask. Why? How come he comes to this world, the first thing that he does is cry? All right. I'm not saying that science didn't provide us with many answers, but they would never tell you why it is this way. You understand? Why the mucus is this way? Why is that this way? Why? They will tell you it's because this way, but why is it this way? They will not tell you. They will tell you this is electricity, but why is it electricity? Then nobody will tell you. Because there is an energy that is spiritual, and that's electricity. But that's a different story. The baby comes here, he cries. Over what does he cry? Why can't he come once? I mean, once in a while somebody should come smiling. Right? No. Why? Because nobody wants to live where he was before. You know where he comes from? He comes from palaces. From the most beautiful place that you could never imagine with your right eyes. Impossible. We have to believe in that. Otherwise, I'll ask you another question. With whom is he smiling when he smiles? How come he doesn't smile to his parents? You know when he starts smiling to his parents? After he sees them. And why is it that it takes long until he starts smiling to them? And why is it that it takes long until he can see? Why he is not like the behemoth? You know that the behemoth, the animal, when it is born, the same day he can run. The same day he goes meh meh. The same day he can eat. Because they don't have a neshama. But people have a neshama. And this neshama is alive. And he remembers all this time. Because if he would come here and he would forget immediately everything, he would die. So Hashem does it gradually. First he blocks his eyes, that there should be no interference. Let him attach himself and connect himself yet with the past. Little by little they will fade. The shapes of those people, of those marvelous things, they will fade away. Little by little they will forget about them. When he forgets completely about them, that's when he opens his eyes and he sees his parents and he smiles to them. The truth that he was much smarter before. When we go to Masechet, the Gemara in Masechet Nida on page 30. And there it says, what's happening in the womb of the mother when she is pregnant? What happens there? You know, the Gemara tells us, and again I'm not telling you my own inventions, check me on that by going to Masechet Nida on page 30. And there you will find that when the woman is pregnant, there is a child inside. And the child has a candle on his head. What does it mean? Don't ask me. You know, the Torah has to use terms that are rather poetical more than realistical. He has a candle over his head through which he can see till the end of the world. I'm concluding in about 5 minutes, I guess, yes. But I want you to know that that the child is inside the womb in a different life. Watch. There is a life before that is eternal. There is a life of 9 months. And there is a life of 70 to 100 years in this world. The greatest one is the one before. Then comes in between that is better than this world according to the understanding of our sages. The baby, when he is in the womb of his mother, he lives a beautiful life. He is provided with everything that he needs, and he doesn't need air. He breathes from what his mother breathes, and he eats from whatever she eats, And it's just amazing. And our sages on the top of it, they told us that he studies Torah, the whole Torah, inside the womb of a mother. Now you can tell me that I am just fantasizing here. Okay, it's up to you to say it's a fantasy. But listen, our sages have proven themselves already in so many things. And we have proven our ignorance in everything. Why would we come and say what they say is sheer fantasy? You understand my question? People are so easy to say, come on, what are they talking about? This is stories of children. Why? Why would you think that you are smart? Look how much they knew, and look how much we don't know. Didn't I tell you that the reason why this world is known by the term olam is because everything is ne'alam, which means nothing is solid here. We don't understand anything. But we should begin by asking questions. We have to ask questions. You see? Again, I told you, this is lecture number 4 in which I didn't use this book again. Which means everything is depending on the beginning. And the beginning, we started to say, is there anybody who has a question? I'm sure someone will think that probably I arranged it this way. That's not true. This is the 4th time that I'm opening these poor books already, that I want to read for you certain stories that we can discuss philosophically in a beautiful way, to continue the first lecture that we told you about, are we in control? I just want to finish with this lecture so that we can start something else. But I must understand, I must admit that there is also great benefit from informations that must be given to the people, at least a minimum of them, so that we open our eyes, so that we can ask ourselves, and so that we will feel the need for asking questions. We have to ask why the baby cries. He cries because he didn't want to come to this world. He refused. The Gemara tells us that God tells him, go. And he says, please, don't send me to this world. This world is a world of darkness. You want me now to separate from a world of light and knowledge. And you want to send me to a place in which everything is dark. And God says to him, go my baby, go my son. You have to. You are in my royam, in my place. You are not earning what you have. The joy that you have to earn. Otherwise it's considered lechem busha. The Zohar HaKadosh says, nahma de kisufa, a bread of shame. If one gets bread without earning it, it's a source of tremendous shame. So God says you have to go and earn your bread. Go to this world. Only it's a few years. It passes very quickly. Like King David says, it's like the fly of a bird. And not even the bird that stands with his shadow, with the shadow of his wings, but a shadow that flies away, not the shadow of a wall. The Gemara says in Masechet Berachot. This world goes so quickly, it will be over in no time. But in the meantime, do the best you can. Invest whatever you can, so that you come back to me and deserve what you have, and I will give you a tremendous bonus. But first prove yourself when you come to this world. Stand up on yourself, learn Torah, do your mitzvot, do what is necessary, do works of kindness and charity, and widen your knowledge by yourself. Let something be your own labor, and then come back to me. And then you will enjoy tremendous joy because it's yours. It's not like before, it's not yours. But when he comes, he keeps begging, so I have to go, I have no choice. So the Malach, so the Midrash tells us that the Malach, the angel, he takes him with his hands. No, you might ask me, what hand? What are you talking about? I mean, this is a puff of air maybe. A neshama, what's a neshama? A puff of air? So where are the hands? Where are the legs? Well, I want you to know something else that the Zohar HaKadosh does tell us. That there is another body. You think that's the only body that you have? Everybody, Malkiel, you have another body. And that body, you don't see it here. We cannot see it because our eyes are very limited. The Ari HaKadosh tells us that everybody has a duplication of his body. The light that are projected from your body is the same shape exactly. I'm sure you heard many times those clinical deaths when people practically were in a total coma. And when they came back, they said that they were watching, they were planning, they were hovering above their body, and they look at their own themselves, they see their body, but at the same time they see their own body on the table. And they don't understand, but this is my body and here I am, so where am I? What's going on? They don't understand that there is what we call Or HaMakif, that's Kabbalah. There is a light that encircles the body that has the same shape. And by the way, the Ari HaKadosh was able to see in his time. That's why he was able to see the deeds of everyone. Just from if he sees something is missing in that light, that means he knows exactly what you committed that day.
Is it the aura?
The aura. But the aura has the same shape. When we are out of the body, that aura is exactly as you see. Which means, you know what it says? It says that the first thing that will happen after we die, before the judgment, we will be able to see our parents. We will be able to see all the friends that passed away before. We will be able to see so many people who will come, and you will recognize them. How can you recognize them? Didn't we leave the body in the grave? So what are we going to see? Just puffs, little smokes? No, you will see the whole body. Only it's made of energy. It's not made of blood, and but the shape is the same, exactly the same. So now the baby, when he has to come, he comes by force, and when he is snatched from the other world to come to this world, it's the biggest pain. Let me just tell you one more thing. Everybody is afraid of death, right? Death is very painful. But you should know that birth for the baby is more excruciating than death that we experience. That's why he cries. Did you know that? It's very painful to come to this world, much more than to get out from this world. And look, we spend the whole lifetime worried about the day of death. We are afraid of death. And yet, the baby, what he goes through when he comes here, is much more excruciating. You want to know why? The Midrash Kohelet Rabbah tells us, because before he comes in, he also doesn't know. Why do you think we are afraid of death? Because we don't know what's going to be after. Are we going to stay in the grave? What about how can I breathe? Some people say, how can I breathe if I am in the grave? How can I breathe? You're not going to breathe, you silly. So he says, so where am I going to stay? So see, the lack of knowledge is the source of our fears. But the baby before it is born has the same problem. The neshama before it is born. And when he goes to the womb of the mother, it's already a big consolation for him. But when he goes to this world, after he spent 9 months in the womb of his mother, at that time, he doesn't know what's going to be, where he is going to plunge. For him, it's like plunging into what? And then when he comes in, he is in the air, and he breathes like everybody else. But the first reaction for him is to cry, because it was very, very horribly painful for him to come in. So you see, that's why when you see the baby smiling, you should say, is he smiling at whom? Oh my God, this is the proof that there is somebody there, that there was something there. Otherwise, why would he smile? We know according to our own experience that nobody, even the crazy guy, doesn't smile for nothing. It's because he saw something. So the baby smiles. Not to us, to them. Amazing. So that's only one drop in the ocean of what yet there is to learn. And yet, Baruch Hashem, we have been furnished with so many informations. All we need is to learn. All we need is to study. And even if we study and learn, we are not going to even achieve 1 per billion of the information that there is there. But in heaven, that's the place where our informations will be completed. That's where our knowledge will be completed. Our sages said, what is the occupation of the tzaddikim in Gan Eden, in paradise? Tzaddikim yoshvim va'aterotehem berashehem v'nehenim miziv hashchina. The tzaddikim, which means anyone who was meritorious to be in paradise, he sits all day long and forever and ever, and they look only at one thing, the divine presence, the beauty, the clarity of the divine presence. So some people ask the question, what do you mean? You mean forever and ever I'm going to see the same thing? That's boring. No? I mean, imagine somebody put one picture before him and said, spend all your lifetime, look at this picture, he'll go nuts. Right? So what do you mean? Ziv HaShechina. Our sages explain Ziv HaShechina, the glory of the divine presence is knowledge. Knowledge is the greatest happiness there is. It is an adventure that does not end. It is one excitement after another, without end. I know I might be disappointing someone here. That's all there is there. I mean, you mean to tell me that I will not be able to watch my television no more, my beautiful shows? Where am I going to watch my baseball game? And so forth. There you will be so occupied with if you are meritorious, to be looking at the Ziv HaShechina, the beauty of the divine presence, which means the knowledge that has no end. All the secrets will be revealed to us. Everything. At the same time, believe me, there will be so many things that are exciting that who am I to even tell you even a scratch of that. But one thing is sure, that not everybody can merit all this. There are stages. And the stages is one of them is to go to space also. It's possible that to go to visit in Mars and all this is part of the judgment before we go to the final place, which is the eternal place of those who merit to be in paradise with Hashem, with the presence of God Himself. So God bless you, and may we explore more and more the wisdom of our Torah and the information that is given to us in tremendous abundance.
You were saying before about the when he comes and he's crying. Let's say he's reincarnated and he was given a second chance. Why would he cry?
That's the next lecture, the reincarnation. I have 4 videos, 8 hours, just about reincarnation that will answer your question, because that's the second part. Now, exactly. Why was he? I mean, why is it that why is it that this world is total mystery in everything? Because we have to believe that there is Gilgul Neshamot. There is reincarnation of the souls. We are not here only once. We were here several times, at least one more time. And we might even come back again. Some people are happy to hear this. Oh, nice, Rabbi. I'll be back again in the same. No, we don't know how he'll be back. Maybe he'll be back he will live in Biafra or who knows, in Africa, in Darfur, who knows. But the main thing is to pray to Hashem at least to be born again as a Jew.
Why should we cry